What if you could take that risk, make that change, reach that goal, live your best life? Welcome to another episode of the What If You Could podcast, where we get together with amazing experts and everyday people who share challenges, encourage healing, and explore the possibilities that life has to offer. I'm your host, Gary Scott, and I'm excited that you're along for the ride. Welcome back to another episode of What If You Could, and this is episode 2 with author Nicholas Harvey. And hopefully you caught episode 1 where we kind of delve into Nick's early years when he's a race car enthusiast, race car driver, and went deep into the Indy open wheel cars and then to NASCAR. But as we enter episode 2, we cover more of the diving, how Nicholas got into diving, how he found his passion for diving from his beautiful wife, Cheryl, and then started writing the adventures of all of his diving. I love his books. His stories are so wonderful. So hopefully you'll enjoy Nicholas Harvey as much as I have. So welcome back to What If You Could, episode 2 with our famous author, Nicholas Harvey. Let's change subjects here. What year did Cheryl drag you into the ocean? How long have you been diving?
Yeah, so it absolutely was Cheryl that persuaded me in there. So I grew up in England. The water is dark, murky, creepy. There's weird stuff under there. And I could always swim. I was okay going in a bit of the ocean, but I didn't like seaweed. I didn't like it, and it just creeped me out. And it was 2001. We were in Grand Cayman for a week of holiday. And she said, uh, are you sure you don't want to try scuba diving? And I'm like, well, I've, I can, I'm okay scuba diving. I've been in the pool. Friend had some gear and I jumped in and swam around his swimming pool. And I'm like, I'm fine doing that. It's what's out there that's bothering me. She goes, it's clear. Here it's going to be, there's fish everywhere. It's fantastic. I'm like, all right, I'll try it. And so she kind of talked me into it. And this chap who's also a young guy, his name was also Nick, actually. And I credit him in the back of several books in 12 Mile Bank as really being one of the reasons that I fell in love with scuba diving. This lad was so enthusiastic. He was brilliant. And I said to him, look, you do the discover diving, they used to call it, resort course at the time, where they basically throw you in a pool, make sure you can breathe off the reg, clear your mask a couple of times, basically life-saving type stuff. And then they just take you in the ocean down to a max of 30 feet and you swim around. He's right there in case anything goes wrong. So it's just a teaser tester kind of thing. So, and I said, look, I'm going to swim around the pool. Fine. It's just out in the ocean. He goes, no, look, we're going to take you to this shipwreck and there'll be loads of fish. I'm like, stop right there. Don't take me anywhere near a shipwreck. So
Wait,
nothing
on your
that's
first dive, they
considered,
were going to take you to a shipwreck?
well, it's scattered kind of debris. It was Theora Verde. So it's not it's not like you're going in it. You're just going to swim around
Okay.
it. But most people go, oh yeah, that'd be fantastic to see that. I was like, no, that sounds creepy as shit. Don't take me anywhere near it. Take me where there's lots of little fishies, like I'm in a fishbowl. He goes, okay, no problem. And he took me to a dive site called Aquarium, believe it or not, and it's a shallow dive in the Cairns on the west side. And I've been back there, and it's absolutely beautiful. And it's kind of there's a sort of bowl effect of the coral there. And there's loads of juvenile fish, and a turtle came through, and that's it. I was hooked. I loved it. I thought it was the best thing ever. Couldn't believe I'd never done it before, and so that was it. It took off from there. The next thing we did was, I think our next trip was to Mexico, to Nueva Barta, right by Puerto Barta, and that's on that big bay. And we got talked into a resort course again. We're like, yeah, we want to go diving. They said, yeah, do the resort course. Yeah, we signed up for that. Cool. So we go out, and our daughter, my stepdaughter, my wife's daughter, Lindsay, was there with us. And the three of us went out there, and they took us out to an island outside and dive around again. Brilliant. Loved it. Cool. We get back, and typical kind of Mexican sales job. They're like, hey, look, do a couple more dives, little bit of book work, watch a video. You're certified. We're like, really? That's all? They go, oh, yeah, no problem. And so they give us the book, and they said, yeah, be at be at the shop at 6 in the morning. We'll have you watch the videos. Then we'll go out and do the other two dives. So we're like, okay. So it got to midnight and we're slogging through the paperwork in the books. We're like, this is ridiculous. There's so much. And when there's all these things you got to learn and physiologies and technical things. And this is nuts. And we just went to bed, got up in the morning, tired as hell, went back, got up at like 5 to get over there to be there at 6. We're like, man, we got as much as we could. No problem, no problem. Just watch this video. So we're sitting there for like 2 hours straight watching videos and doing tests. It's mad, just absolute mad. This course is supposed to take weeks, hey, you go to a pool, you do this, you go do all this book work, and you do it over evenings and what have you, or you do it online and it takes you a week to do. We're doing it in less than 24 hours. And then they take us out and the ocean's sloppy and kicking up and it's crazy. And they take us to this sort of sandy bay. Cheryl, who has an iron stomach, she never gets seasick, starts feeling really lousy. We get out there and she's nervous about this whole thing because it's just been crazy. She hasn't had any sleep. We get in the water. She's like, this is mad. I can't do it. And she's way tougher than I am. So that day just hit her bad. And so she got back on the boat. And the guy was like almost insistent, like, no, you'll be fine. I'm like, she's not fine. I look into her eyes. She's not fine. She's coming back up. So he continues with me, and he's got me and this other guy or a lady, I think it was, and he's doing some other course with her. I think it was an advanced course. So we go down this line, and it's 25 feet of water, sandy bottom, with like 3-foot rollers up top. So the sand is just swirling. You can't see more than 4 feet in front of you. And you get down the bottom of the line and he does you hand signals. Okay, do these, because you've got to give you all these tests and things to do. And so you kind of do those things. And he's like, okay, stay there. I'll be back. And he takes off with his lady to go do some skill with her. I'm like, okay. I'm just sitting there at the bottom of the line, wondering what's going on. 10 minutes later, he comes back again. I'm like, I'm still here. So he does I'm rambling here, but it's a pretty funny story. So he says, okay, now he gets out a compass. Now we do the compass, navigation.
Yeah.
Okay. So I get out the compass and he goes, okay. And he does like flashes his hands twice, like 20. I'm like, okay, that's right. Was it 20 kicks, 20 meters? It was 20 something. You got to go on a heading. So he tells me the heading. So I start swimming through the soup, holding this heading. And I figure he's following behind me, And I get out to, I don't know, I went for a while because I'm like, I can't remember what it's supposed to be. So I'm going to do extra. So I get there, I turn around and I look up and he's nowhere to be seen. I'm just in the middle of the ocean. I can see about 5 or 6 feet around me. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of like screwed. And I'm like, navigation is pretty serious now. I've really got to make my way back. So I do the reciprocal and start swimming back. And of course, the surge is like, it's like and it's taking us back and forth and kicking me. And you end up yawing at an angle and trying to compensate. And I've gone for ages and I'm like, well, I've missed the line. I'm absolutely screwed. And then all of a sudden this line comes out of the murk. I'm like, oh my God, I'm alive. And of course you think about this, all I got to do is go up, right? I just got to slowly go up and I'd be on the surface and hopefully they'd see me. But you think, well, I've got to do this. So I get back to the line and I'm sitting there for another 5 minutes. And then he shows up and goes, you okay? I'm like,
no, I'm not okay.
No, where have you been? What's going on? He's like, good job. I'm like, yeah, good job. I'm still alive. I saved myself. Thank you. Yeah. So that was mad. So I got through it and I got
Was
certified.
that your second dive ever?
It would have been, we did one, we did two, I think, in the day before. So that was my fourth ever dive. Yeah. Fourth ever time in the water. And so it ended up being the best thing that happened in the long term was that Cheryl didn't get certified that day. So she got half of it done and she had to do a referral course. We got back. We were living in Dana Point, California at the time. We went to our local dive shop and this fantastic instructor, Lisa, we told her this whole story and she goes, great, I've got a class just starting. Cheryl, just sit on it from the beginning through. We'll just charge you for the referral. We're going to go over to Catalina and do the open water dives. But you're going to do all the pool work. And she said, Nick, you're already certified, but look, you can be in the pool. You can't be part of the class. Just mimic whatever we do, right? and so you'll just go through it and do it all properly. And then when we go over to Catalina, my boyfriend Craig, who is a great friend of ours to this day, is coming with us. You'll just go dive with him, and we'll finish the class and get Cheryl certified. That's what we did, and it was by far it was brilliant. It's the best thing we did because we actually
That's
got the
awesome.
proper class. Yeah, and we did it in cold water in thick 7 mils and hoods, which is
Oh
far
yeah.
more challenging than doing it in the warm water. So
We dive Catalina probably. My wife probably dives it, I don't know, 20 times a summer, maybe, I mean, 20 weekends. I mean, she's there almost all the time because it's real close
yeah,
to our house. In 3 hours, 3.5 hours, we could be in the water from our house.
yeah.
Um, but this is what I was curious about because I was trying to research it. You wrote your first book before you were in the water.
No, I wrote it in 2017. This was in 2001 was the first time I got in the
Oh,
water.
okay, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. I'm
yeah.
sorry. For some reason, I was thinking this was 2020. Okay, good, good. Because I was thinking, how'd you write that dive book? And really, your books aren't strictly dive books at all. I mean, the
No, it's just centered around like any adventure. It's centered around something. The person has to do something. It just so happens that AJ is a dive boat operator in the Cayman Islands. So she's diving. And then some of the backstory involves diving as well, or something underwater or something aquatic or on the water, but they don't all. Spitfire Storm is about a World War II ATA, female ATA pilot in ferrying planes, Spitfires and Hurricanes and what have you in the war and in the UK. So and before that, I did finally do some racing in a book in Lighthouse Point. There's the backstory is Formula One cars in the 1970 in Europe. So um, yeah, so the backstories are often not involving diving per se, but there's always some diving in there. And I have quite a lot of following from, hence we meeting at the scuba show, as I had a booth at the scuba show because I have quite a lot of following of folks who love diving and go diving, and people who go to the Cayman Islands. There's some neat stuff that's just happened now over the years with folks who read the books and go to Cayman. The setting, so AJ and Reg's dock, which is described in all the books, and it's this little hut, little car park, and a jetty where they keep their boats. It's right next to West Bay Public Dock, which is the longer dock that goes out. That dock and that layout exists. It's on a piece of land that Cheryl and I almost bought years ago, and just couldn't at the time, and it'll be a regret forever. But Indigo Divers bought that lot and put that shack and put the car park and so I modeled there. I looked around where to place them as their base, and I'm like, I'm just going to use Indigos. So and Chris and Kate have become good friends who run Indigo Divers. And Kate makes these signs. She's a great artist, and she has signs up on the side of the shack that say AJ and Reg's Dock, Mermaid Divers, which is her fictional dive company and stuff like that. So I get photographs from people who go to the island on holiday, whether divers or not, and they'll go by Indigos and stand in front of the shack and get the picture taken. And
that
then
is
other
awesome.
people, yeah, and other folks that go and dive with Indigo because of the connection and stuff. It's
That's
really neat.
awesome. You know, I know you get asked this all the time. You probably get asked this 100 times a week, but who who do you want to play AJ in the movie?
I honestly don't know the answer to that. I've thought of a few people over the years. Um, you know, Keira Knightley is doesn't really look like AJ particularly, but
Yeah, but she's beautiful.
she's gorgeous.
Now,
She looks more like Nora Summer, but
was she the one in Pirates of the Caribbean too, right? So
yeah, yeah.
she could be a badass. I mean,
Oh
she's
yeah.
not just a prissy. She was a badass in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, and she's runway model build. She's tall and she's very slender. Gorgeous, gorgeous woman.
Yeah, she's
Um,
stunning. Yeah, she's
yeah.
gorgeous.
Whereas
She's
AJ is
got
more
my vote.
petite. Well, AJ is more petite. She's like 5'3" on a good day when she uh, tips up, goes on tippy toe a bit. Um, and so yeah, she's not really that look, but I think Keira Knightley would pull off the role, her character perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was reading it. You know, it was the one book that we read that we picked up from you when we were there was such a great book. I don't want to give away anything about the book. Um, but I read a lot of books. I love books. I read a lot of books. I've tried to go to audiobooks and Kindle. Can't do it. Hate it. Love to hold the book, right?
Yep.
Um, but nothing better than a book that you don't see something coming, but look, that person can't die, right? There's another 18 books behind it. But as you're reading the book, um, I got little goosebumps. I got emotional towards the end of this one. As you're reading the book, you're still in suspense. You're still worried. You're still scared. You're still feeling that. You know what I mean? Even though this person can't die. Um, but in this one particular book, I don't want to say it, as when AJ comes out of the water and she's panicked, she's lived, things are okay. And then the person that picks her up out of the water is Jackson. And I just thought, yeah, that was that was awesome. I really liked that. That made that I don't know. Was that always who was going to find her, or was it going to be Reg? Was it going to be Roy? Who was going to find her and pick her up out of the water in that
A
book?
lot of the, yeah, a lot of the time, I don't know. When I start a book, most of the time I don't know what the ending will be. I'm Writers are generally pantsers or plotters. So you're either right by the seat of your pants, which means you sit down and you just start writing. And I know many authors are that way. Or you're a plotter, which means you lay out um, you outline it, right? So, and some people I know, TD Black, who we interviewed on our show, he spends more time outlining than he does writing the book. So, and he'll do 30 or 40,000 words. If I remember it correctly, he told me about half the words that are in the book will be in the outline. And then, and that's the exciting part for him. And then he just fills it out to become a whole book. So he's got it planned completely. And then there's the people in between, and I'm in between. I'm a plantser. So I have to start the book, I have to have a handful of elements. And don't ask me what those elements are because I don't know. I don't, it changes every time. And sometimes it'll be literally all I know is what this opening scene is going to be, and then I'm going to take it from there. Sometimes I do know how I want it to end. Sometimes um, I'll have an interesting character and a set of circumstances or a general theme that I want to work around. But I have to have enough elements that I feel like, okay, I can get started and move along now. And generally what I end up loosely outlining the first third of the book. And then as I've written, which would be about 10, 11, 12 chapters, first third. And then when I'm about halfway through writing that, I'll start pushing that outline further out, and I'll start having key elements that I'll think of and plot twists and different things, and I'll start putting them out there. And every book has been different. So I don't think any of them have been identical in either what I knew at the beginning or how exactly it came together. And in the dual timeline AJ books, I've written one whole timeline, skipping the whole other timeline. And then I go back and write the other timeline. And the first reader of my books is Cheryl, and she hates it when I do that because normally when I write linear or linearly, so chapter one, chapter two, what have you, when I'm done with that, I send her the chapters. And so she's reading the book as I'm writing the book. But when I skip the timeline, I won't let her read it because she's going to read it completely out of sequence. And part of the magic of that dual timeline is meshing those the tempo of the book together on both timelines so it works. So you're going from one world and skipping back to the other and then back and back. And it's a tricky balance in doing that to make sure ideally what you want is every time the reader leaves, like AJ's world currently, they don't want to leave it. Right. And they go back into the past timeline, and then they read the past timeline, and then they get so embedded in that chapter when it comes to the end of the chapter, they don't want to leave that one, right? And you take them back to the other one, and hitting those beats is a challenge, and it's tricky, and I love doing it.
The that brings me to your chapters, which are very swift. Your chapters are short. I mean, in the one book that I read, I was surprised that,
What did you read?
is that
Gardens? Gardens of the Queen.
Gardens of the Queen.
Yeah, that was an experimentation. So that was I wrote 12 Mile Bank, and then it was several years later, well, in this 2019 period where we're planning going on the road and everything else, I started writing Gardens of the Queen. And I'm like, I'm going to try going more fast paced with this one. And because the chapter lengths are all over the place in 12 Mile Bank. There's long, short. It's way less. It ended up gluing together. It came out accidentally okay, but but I really changed the way I use tempo. So when I was Gardens was my second book, and I'm starting to learn how to use tempo in a book. And I tried doing shorter chapters. It's got way more chapters than any other book I've written, and it worked pretty good because it's quite fast paced, and there's lots of action going on. They're chasing around the island, and there's all sorts. And but I found that wasn't. I liked filling out the story more in each chapter, and so the next one, if you go on to read book 3, which is a Wreck of the Raptor, which is a dual timeline book, the chapters go out a bit longer again, and now I have a rhythm that that is my voice, that works for me, and I know how many words approximately I'm going to be in a chapter, and it's not a hard and fast rule, so I can go shorter or longer, but generally speaking, that pacing works out. There's enough information in that chapter, and then sometimes I'll break that rule a little bit when you get into the real action at the end of it. If it's going really hard and fast, like in Queen of the Island Skies, you're going from two different POVs back and forth between one boat that's chasing and one boat that's trying to get away, and so they're short, really short, go back and forth between them. But generally speaking, yeah, I found a different tempo now, and I end up with about 30 to 36 chapters in a novel, and that pacing is perfect.
Yeah, that because like I said, I read a lot, and that was refreshing and surprising to me because it did keep it. Man, you're like, wham, okay, now, now you're with these guys, now you're back with those guys, now you're doing this, and I thought, wow, that really kept. And for me, it's bad because I'm the guy who says, okay, I'm only going to read one more chapter. I know it's 3 in the morning, right?
But
So
that
it
was
was
a
great.
short chapter. I can do another one.
Exactly. So for me, it's
Yeah,
like, okay, I could do one more because they're short, right? So it's like
yeah.
it was a catch 22 for me. You've been so gracious with your time. I don't want to take up too much time, but I just have a couple quick more things I want to cover. So it's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, cool, cool. Um, do you are you a publisher now too, or do you self-publish all your books?
Yeah, I've been a self-publisher from the get-go. The When I came to doing something with 12 Mile Bank, when I'd written it, I got hold of a school friend of mine in the UK, Kerry Lawrence. We grew up in that village of Radcliffe, where I went to school in Buckingham. We were the only two kids my age in the village, and so we were friends. And she's a bazillion times smarter than me. She went on to be a lawyer and a judge, and she's retired now. She lives in the Channel Islands, Jersey, and she's wonderful, wonderful one. And she'd written a book, and I'd bought it and read it, and it was a great book, really cool, like mystery book. And she'd won awards with it. And then she tried to get an agent and tried to get published, and spent 2 years just bashing her head against the wall, trying to get through all the gatekeepers, and got nowhere. So I spoke to her, and I said, I am working full time. I I don't have time for this. I can't do that. So I'm just going to self-publish. She said, yep, just go on Amazon. It's pretty easy. So I went on there and learned the minimum that I could to actually put the book on there. And yeah, I mean, that's where it's at. It sold like 100 copies to friends, family in the first sort of month. And then it just sat there, and believe it or not, this is there's lots of myths out there about writing books, but there is somewhere in the neighborhood of, I'd heard the number before, it was about 18 or 20 million books Amazon, but I think I heard the number the other day. It's about 12 million books on Amazon. 12 million. So if you put your book up on Amazon and you're like, well, once people see this, well, no one's going to see it. So if you just put it there, no one sees it. So you have to put some impetus behind it and do some marketing and put it up against also boards and work that whole advertising system, which is when you're an indie publisher, writing the books is the easy part of it. The business side of it is by far the hardest part of it. And there is a lot of mediocre books doing really well out there because they're marketed very well. And there's some outstanding books that are going nowhere because the author doesn't have the means, doesn't have the knowledge, or doesn't have the drive to or the wherewithal to market it. And so it's the tricky side of the business. But yeah, but now I've been talking to some publishers that have shown some interest. Now I'm established and it's proven that my books sell and people like them. Then you kind of get beyond the first gatekeepers into the publishing thing. And I don't know, I wouldn't rule out going with a publisher for maybe part of my works that I do. But I'm kind of doing okay. I'm making a living and supporting us to when my wife still works, but between us, we support ourselves to live the lifestyle that we want to live. We're not eating ramen noodles, but we're not living in any castles anywhere. But we're able to live this nomadic life and enjoy ourselves, and we're loving it. So
That's awesome. And that board behind you looks like me and my wife's refrigerator. We get a magnet everywhere we go. So it
we're
reminds me
living.
of our refrigerator.
Yeah, when you live in an RV, you stop buying t-shirts places and you don't buy anything bulky. We just get
Right.
a magnet. So this board behind me tracks, it's pretty much 2019. It tracks our adventures in 2019, and the one across from me that you can't see is sort of since then it's places. So we right now we spend about 6 months of the year in the RV in America, and we spend about 6 months overseas. Last year we were in St. Martin for 2 months, Bonaire for 4 months. This year we spent 5 weeks in the UK, a month in Cayman, and we'll be going back down to Cayman for the winter to spend about 3 months. So it's we live in a tent everywhere we go. So it's not glamorous, but not quite a tent. But we do a
That's
cheap
awesome.
Airbnb.
But it's freedom in a big sense. It's freedom, like you said, get off that hamster wheel. The fellow I was telling you about who wrote that one book,
Yeah.
his first publisher, editor, publishing company, whatever, was wicked bad. I mean, they made all these promises to him, and then when it came down to it, they're like, "We really don't know if we like your content. War is bad. We're not sure." And he's like, "What are you talking about? It. You knew what I was writing."
Yeah.
And so he ended up leaving them at the last minute, which was painful to him, and went with a much smaller publisher who said, "Hey, I love your book, and I'm going to support it." But he was kind of shocked that, wait a minute, how do you do that at the last minute like that? So I'd imagine self-publishing, you only have to answer to yourself, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It's the good and bad of it. It's you. So you get out of it what you put into it, but you've got to figure it all out. So you've got to figure out all the marketing, um, how to get your book in front of people, and how to grow that business. It's just like any other business. You're just trying to grab a little piece of that market that's out there and do the best with it you can. So, and publishers, you know what? There's when you're an indie publisher, the big traditional publishing houses, the trad houses are the bad guys, right? So, but it's like everything else. There's super good people out there doing wonderful things in the publishing world, and there's some lousy humans that are, that don't have integrity and they're doing marginal jobs, and there's huge publishing houses down to really small publishing houses, and then there's vanity presses where you pay them to package your book together and put it out there. And so there's horses for courses, and there's different ways of going about this thing. But um, yeah, it's been an interesting journey. It's I'm
I
learning
imagine
every
so.
day.
Well, what is just real quick, and we'll wrap up here again. You've been so super gracious, but what is the deal with the AJ Bailey dive adventure that you're doing now. I'm bummed we missed that because it's coming up, what, in a week, right?
Yeah, it's not this coming weekend, the following weekend on the 5th and 6th of October with Conch Republic Divers here in Isla Morada, where we're staying for a few months, um, or at least a month. And yeah, it came about. I'd been thinking about doing, if you built it, would they come? And if I'd have enough people show up, or if I'd be like, no one's answering the call to come diving with me. But a reader out west suggested it, said, "Hey, look, you should put together with out there in the Keys." And what's amazing is the poor fella ended up not being able to come to the event either last year or this year. But he sort of pushed the idea, and I had somebody else kind of suggesting and pushing the same sort of thing. So we'd thought about it already, and then a few people brought it up, and I'm like, okay, well, let's try it. And quite honestly, I was really nervous about it, because literally, it's who's going to want to pay some money to come and dive with me. And but the great thing is I have Cheryl, and everyone wants to come and dive with Cheryl, and she's there. So we so we did it last year, and Ashley
So
and
she's your
David.
hook.
Yeah,
Cheryl's your hook.
exactly. I use her in all the marketing for the dive event. So we did it last year, and yeah, Ashley and David Conch Republic Dive is here in Isla Morada. Are fantastic, fantastic, and they have two boats. They have a huge Newton, a 46-foot Newton, and they have a smaller kind of I think it's a 6 or 8 pack boat. And the smaller boat, she when they bought the company a few years back, she renamed it Mermaid Diver, and Ashley got hold of me and said, AJ Bailey's fictional dive company is the Mermaid Divers in Cayman. And she goes, I want to name the boat Mermaid Diver. And I'm like, you are free to do so. I don't own the name. She goes, yeah, but I wanted to ask you, make sure it was cool. And I go, yeah, it's more than cool. I love it. And she goes, well, could we use, maybe we could use some of the, that logo you have. And I'm like, I will send you any graphics you want. So I sent her the logo, and the boat wrap company produced the wrap for the hull. And so the Mermaid Diver is wrapped in AJ Bailey logo, the mermaid on it, and everything that we have on our t-shirts, and that I make for folks who follow the books. That's pretty cool. So anyway, we put all this together with Conch and put it out there, and the response was really, really surprising and wonderful. And a few people had to drop out. We did it on a Friday, Saturday last time, which made it awkward for a few people. And there was a lot of the folks that come are people that I've met through diving, through the books and what have you, that already knew me a little bit. And we had a good little group come last year. We had Stuart Foster, a lovely bloke who I've now get to call a friend. And when we were over the UK, we went and dove with him in the English Channel, which was fantastic, amazing experience. Very cold, and well, Catalina type temperature, and
True. Yeah, Kathleen is cold.
yeah, but it was brilliant experience. But Stuart flew all the way from the UK to come dive with us last year. He's coming back this year, and so after last year, it went really, really well, amazing, and we said, okay, we'll do it again. And like almost everybody that was there last year immediately signed up, and then I set a number. I set a number at 20 because the boat it'll take like 30 divers, but it gets pretty shoulder to shoulder. So, and Ashley brings a few extra crew on. And so we said, okay, 20. And we've got 21 people diving with us because there was a couple who signed up and I couldn't turn one away. And so we filled the boat, even with some people that had to drop out with changes. And then we're getting support from the dive industry, shearwater dive computers that I dive with and I love. AJ dives with the shearwater for the past, I don't know, 5 books or something now. They support it, and we have big raffle prizes at the end of it and some swag we give everybody. And Dive Right, Dive Gear, who I did my tech diving course in Bonaire last year, that I've been dying to do for ages. And I got hold of Dive Right to get my tech gear and stuff. And Lamar and Leanne are absolutely wonderful, wonderful people at Dive Right. And so I use all Dive Right dive gear now, and they sponsor the event. with supplying raffle prizes and stuff. My friends at Reese Smart Dive Guides are involved. And the one of the best sponsors of all is Seven Fathoms Rum. So if you read more of the books, you'll come across Seven Fathoms Rum. It truly exists. And they are a small independent rum maker in the Cayman Islands. They're the only truly made in Cayman rum, and it's great stuff. And so for after diving, we have
Well, I
prizes
have
of
to. I
bottles of rum.
I don't want to say it because I want you to do it again next year, so Lisa and I can come. But I'm going to say it anyways. You know that 4.99 is really cheap. You realize, right? That's super inexpensive because we were calculating out, going, wait a minute, 6 times all the swag, all the stuff. I'm like, 4.99, that's a deal.
It is, and last year I lost money, and
Yeah, you got to
but
raise
but
your price on
but
that.
we had a good time this year because we should just come out in the black, and a lot of that's because Ashley and Dave are so cool at Conch Republic Divers. They do it at a really good rate. So yeah, we may have to creep it up a little bit, but I mean we're able to do it like that because of the support we get from the sponsors. So if you count, I mean the swag bags, everything you get in the swag bags is worth well over $100. So like you say, if you count up the cost of doing those dives, and we do most all the diving on nitrox, so there's a cost involved in that. It's yeah, basically you're basically
It's
paying for the diving, and everything else is thrown
yeah.
in. Yeah, we have
It's
meals, we have a
more
big
than a
lunch thing.
it's more than a bargain, trust me, because we've spent way more than that on that type of diving, and we love Sherwood. The worst part for diving for me, and I've been certified since 1980, is I could never read my damn watch. I mean, my wife bought me a Sherwood for Christmas a couple years back. It's like,
Shearwater, yeah,
wow, Sherwood. I'm like Sherwood. I can see.
same thing. I was going through all those stick-on lenses in the mask and
Yeah.
trying to find a mask so I could read the darn computer, and now I have the wrist size
Uh,
Shearwater, and I can
I
see it.
love
I
it. I
love
love it.
it,
I love it. I
love it.
love it. Well, I hope you do another AJ Dive Adventures next year because we will definitely be there. I think
Fantastic.
it's wonderful. Jack the price a little bit so you're not, you got to do more than break even because it really is worth it. Um, I'm going to let you go because you've been so gracious. But when you're in the Keys and when you're staying there, and since you're a writer, do you feel a little Hemingway-esque being down there?
um, I actually snuck a. I've only taken AJ out of the Cayman Islands twice. Once was for Lighthouse Point, based in Bonaire, because we spent 4 months there. I had to write a book there, and the other was I had to bring her to the Keys. So she comes over for a diving convention that's set in the Keys. So Rex of Key Largo is set here in the Keys. So it's um it's a creative place, you know. I mean, there's uh being by the water, being by the ocean, being um, you're kind of immersed in the coastal life. And and that's a lot of what I'm writing about. And that's why we're trying to spend more and more time over in the Cayman Islands. It's where the books, we love it, first of all, and it's where the books are based. And, there's, I try and include the same as when I put that one book here in the Keys. When we're in Cayman, I try and really write about local businesses I include in there, great places to go eat, little landmarks that you might not have heard of, and the dive locations and all that kind of thing. So it really means a lot to me to put the reader in the location and get them to feel and sense what it's like to be above water and underwater in those places. And I get some positive feedback on that a lot, and that really does mean a ton to me when you get that feedback. So
I love that. I love that. So my last question, I always ask this, and I'm sorry I don't preface it. I don't tell people I'm going to ask it. It's something I kind of have found that kind of comes from the heart. But you're such a kind soul. I mean, and Cheryl, when we met you guys, we just thought this is the nicest people in the world. You're obviously giving back and doing this. But if you were to leave the audience with a thought, with something dear to your heart, something that means something to you, something you'd like to share. Not have to be personal to you, but just a thought that you carry about life, the world, whatever. If you wanted to leave us with a little thought, what would that be?
that's easy. I sign off every newsletter the same way. I have stickers that if you ever meet me, I'll hand you one of them. I like to hand them out. It's my sign off on my podcast that I do with my good friend Douglas Pratt, my fellow writer, the two authors podcast that we do. And that's be cool to each other. We just we just need more of it. We need more of it. We're going the wrong way. We need to be cool to each other.
That's it. That's all there is, brother. I agree 1,000,000%. So, gosh, everybody, Nick Harvey, you're so wonderful. The AJ Bailey books are amazing. Go on to the site. Gotta get the swag.
I
Don't
love it.
be
You're
a
wearing the tee.
wanker. I freaking love this shirt. I wear it all the time. Love the book. I'm definitely to get more of the books. Please, everybody, go to nicholasharvey.com. Go support him, his books. Um, just a wonderful soul. Cheryl's just such a beautiful soul. The books are outstanding. They're not just for divers. Trust me at all. We'll have a link to the books, a link to Nick's website on the podcast. Check him out. He's a good guy. He's a real good man, and I look forward to hopefully we'll be at the AJ Adventure next year, wherever you have it. And we
Sounds good.
can't wait. We can't
Yeah.
wait. And again, Nick, just thank you so much. I'm grateful for all your time. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed the chat. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Thank you soon. See ya. Thanks again for joining us on another episode of What If You Could podcast. Please subscribe, like, share, and give us any feedback. We'd love to hear it. And remember, if you can dream it, you can do it. See you next time.